everybody, this is Amanda again, and today we're going to be working with Gimp to do some quick basic edits on this engagement picture. I'm going to take you through a couple of steps. Gimp is a super easy program that is a lot like Photoshop, but the great thing about it is that it's free. It does run inside another program if you're a Mac user, this X11 program. It can be a little confusing at first because this set of menus up here, like you're used to using, doesn't actually affect anything in the program. You actually need to use this set of menus down here. Likewise, whenever you click on the toolbox or this or over here, you actually have to click on the window itself before you can do anything within that window. So it's just a tiny extra step, but it can be a little confusing at first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assess our image and look at the things that we think might need to be changed. To me, I think that they are a little bit in the center, like we've talked about before, so I'm going to see if I can't crop and move them into the more of a third aspect, or a third composition. Likewise, I feel like the background is really, really bright, and they are dark. They've obviously been shot with a flash. You can see the shadow right here of the flash and the little pinprick points in their eyes, so if it hadn't been shot with a flash, they would just be big dark blobs, but there's still, my eye goes straight to this bright space back behind them, so we're going to do a little levels and a little dodging and burning. And then lastly, because it's an outdoor image shot with flash, they look a little blue to me, so we're going to fix the color balance as well. So the first thing we're going to do is click on our toolbox and get the crop tool, and then we need to click back over on this window, and then we can crop again so that they are more in the center of the frame. So making sure I've got, hands, fingers, all of that stuff before I move on. I'm also going to move in that crop box so that it doesn't, we don't have leftovers of this space over here. It goes right to the edge of that. But we still want this line up here to give them a nice frame to sit in. I can't get all the way to the point where they'd be 2/3 in the frame, because then they would not, basically that's about 2/3, and then I don't have nice breathing room for them, and her fingers get cut off, so we don't want to do that. We want to, and obviously I'm more familiar with Photoshop, as you can tell, but that crop right there, if that's where we started from, and then that's where we crop to, it keeps them from being directly in the center, so it's a better composition that way in a horizontal image. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is work on the levels here. That lives under this colors menu right here. Levels. It's the same as in Photoshop, where this is a bar graph that shows you how much of each gray tone is in the image. So we can see we've got a lot of light grays, and then it's kind of not so much down here, but it's fairly even throughout. So we're going to try to move the midpoint of the grays up, so we see how that's making them brighter right there. I'm going to move the black point down just a bit so that her hair stays nice and dark. We don't want there to be pixelation in her hair because we've lightened it too far. And then I'm going to take the white point, and I'm actually going to move it into the gray a little bit. That's what this slider down here does. So if I move it really far, you can tell what's going on. But I just want to move it in just a little bit, just to knock back the brightness back there a little bit. Likewise, if I move the black one in, you'll see that it makes it washed out that direction. So we don't want to do that. You can always play with the slider, move it too far, see what happens, and then move on to the next point. So we're going to hit OK. So again, this is where we started from, then we cropped it in, and then we've adjusted the levels like that. They still seem dark to me in comparison with the background. So we're going to do something called dodging and burning, and that is a way to lighten just a portion of the image and darken just a portion of an image, as opposed to levels, which affects the whole image itself. So we're going to click back over on our toolbox. This tool right here is the dodge and burn tool. I've made a brush that is fairly sizable, and it's very, very soft, so anything I do with this brush isn't going to have a hard edge. Notice I don't have hard edge checked on the brush itself. Right now it's set to burn, and it's set to burn the highlights, so we're going to apply that to the grass back behind because they are mostly highlights right now. They're not really midtones, they're pretty bright. So click back on our image, and then we can start to paint in, and it's just, I mean, the smallest amount. I've got my exposure set at 10.3, which is a really little amount because I want to be able to control it. I don't want to go so fast that I lose what I'm doing. So you'll notice if I go back to levels, back to dodge and burn, that the grass is slightly darker. I'm going to also do some in the midtones as well. And I'm going to turn up my exposure a little bit because I do feel like I've got a better handle on the grass over here. And again, you have to click on the image over here before you can start to do anything to it. We'll paint in the darkness in the grass again. Okay. So from there to there. So it's just, it's fairly subtle. We don't want to overdo things. Likewise, we're going to now go to dodge. So that's going to lighten as opposed to darken. I'm going to turn my exposure back down a little bit. I'm going to turn my opacity up a little bit. Then I'm going to paint over their faces with the dodge tool. Just nice and soft all over. I'm trying to stay out of her hair a little bit, just because I don't want that to get pixelated. So if we go back in history, it's really subtle. The unfortunate thing about Gimp is that it doesn't allow you as many history states as Photoshop does, so you can only go back so many steps. So you need to be careful that you're not doing anything that won't allow you to go back from here. So like I can't go back at this point and show you what it looked like before it was cropped. We've gone too many steps forward. So if I decided I did that poorly, but I wanted to go back to the crop at this point, unless I'd saved a version of the cropped file, I would have to reopen the image completely to undo the levels, dodge, and burn. So it's just something to be aware with as you work with this program. So now we're going to go in to the colors and the color balance, because I feel like they look cool. They look kind of blue, especially if you look at the whites in his shirt, because they're in the shade. So I feel like that needs to go up a little bit. So right now we're affecting the midtones. So we're going to add a little yellow, and again, just a subtle amount, and a little red to warm them up a little bit. And really, I feel like that's all you need to do. You might move the red up in the highlights as well, and the yellow up in the highlights, but I think that's too much. I think we were pretty happy with just affecting the midtones. So that's looking kind of blue, and that's looking nice and healthy and pink. So Gimp, again, is a super easy program, and it's free, which is extra useful. So I hope you guys have success in using this program. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Thanks!